Welcome back to What She Said Sports. We got a great show planned for you today. I learned some things, investigated some things, found out some things. All right, so let's get it. Let's get it. How's everybody doing? Let me shout out the chat before I get going. Gracie, how you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Very important. Shout out to 700 new subs. Y'all got me midway through 3,000. So I have this idea that I want to hit a million, and it might happen. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. If you hang out with us all the time, consider joining. We have memberships. You can join as a member on YouTube. Don't forget, we are on Facebook. We are on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. And every now and then we're on Twitch. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. All right. Just in case anybody out there is not 100% sure, racial discrimination is illegal. Okay. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 made sure that racial discrimination is illegal. Okay. And we've already talked about when it comes to the NFL, it's documented. Now, we were talking in comments earlier today that people are tiptoeing around collusion. They're scared to say the R word as if people don't use the word racist in their videos when they're teaching. So tonight we're going to class. Sometimes we go to church. Sometimes we go to church and class. Tonight we're going to class. So racial discrimination is illegal. All right. With that being the case, there are certain things that you can do and certain things that you cannot do. And one of the things that we said the NFL was guilty of because they settled a $1 billion lawsuit is what? Race norming. The practice along with policies that govern the belief in the NFL and the way that they conduct business that Black NFL players' brains are inferior and have lower cognitive functioning than white NFL players, right? So we talked about that. It's already out there. There's several cases of collusion, Lamar Jackson, as well as Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, veterans when it comes to fully guaranteed contracts. We also talked about how it's starting to appear that the fully guaranteed contract that Deshaun Watson has, that people say is the worst deal ever, likely came because there was a cover-up. Now, we'd have to go down the road and check into that. But when we look at the discrimination against QBs, Black quarterbacks in the NFL draft, that's already out there. So there's nothing new here under the sun. What's happening to Shedeur, we said Shedeur was collateral damage. What happened to him happened to Lamar Jackson, humiliation. CJ Stroud suffered humiliation. And when these types of things only happen to Black quarterbacks in the draft, that's racial discrimination. It's talked about how the NFL badly discriminates against Black quarterbacks in the drafts. So you have the race norming $1 billion settlement. Blacks are inferior to whites in the NFL, which means Blacks are inferior to whites everywhere. So if you say a Black NFL player has lower cognitive functioning than whites, you're essentially saying that Black NFL players are what? Inferior to whites. And if the brains of Black NFL players are inferior to whites, they're implying that Black people are inferior to whites. That explains their hiring practices where the league is majority Black. And it seems like they don't generally, when it comes to Black NFL players, have where they can develop and move upward in the company. It seems that the top brass, the executives, are mostly white. You have a GM like Andrew Berry seen basically trying to say that Shedeur isn't that great of a quarterback because he's a retro style quarterback. So therefore, he's not that desirable. He was overpriced in the first round, and that they got him for a great price point in the fifth round. But he wasn't overjoyed about it. He doesn't consider it a blockbuster deal. Nothing special about it. Nothing special about Shedeur. Yes, there's a lot that comes with him, but you have to earn your keep. The lot that comes with him is the celebrity. The cat's out the bag. Shedeur's a celebrity. He's actually been a celebrity, but he's still a celebrity. He's a celebrity as a person. So in the NFL, they're trying to say, you're not a star football player, though. And most people would disagree. This young man's jersey is number one in his draft class, not because people remember him from a show when he was 4 or 5. A lot of people know that he balled out at CU, won all sorts of kind of awards. Went back and checked again, he was a top 10 Heisman candidate. CU fans believe he was snubbed from that. And we said that was about Coach Prime. That was about Coach Prime being a black head coach that they were resistant to after so many other black head coaches were done dirty. Kevin Sumlin from Texas A&M, look it up. Herm Edwards, Arizona State, look it up. And what they did to Herm Edwards, they were actually trying to do to Coach Prime. Sabotage his program from within by giving out his plays. That's exactly what happened to Herm Edwards. Now, although he got fired for what they said was a recruiting violation, it seems that the recruiting violation was specific to Jaden Daniels and the assertion that his mother bought him a ticket to go visit a school during the pandemic. They hung his firing on that. But in fact, it was because they were a losing team, because why? The assistant coaches, is documented, gave away his plays to every team that they were playing so that he could lose and he could get fired. It is actually documented. So people being done dirty, black football players in college, black football players in the NFL, coaches in the NFL if you're black. It's football, period. College football, pro football, and the NFL specifically. The racism just seems to follow you if you're a black head coach or if you're a star quarterback. Why? Because in the NFL, quarterback is king. It's supposed to be the face of the team, make the most money. We're talking $400 and $300 million contracts. Everybody does not get that. And not for maybe 4 to 5 years. Some people might get it for 8 years, but 300 million over 8 years is different from 300 million over 4. I can guarantee you. So what's the big deal about the quarterback position? It's the leader of the team. The history of the NFL, we've recited it, goes all the way back to 1920. They had a ban against black NFL players becoming quarterbacks. We talked about 1934, where NFL players were banned, period, from the league because random white people didn't have jobs, and the owners who made a gentleman's agreement said it wouldn't look good for black people to be making money while white people are not. It set a tone for how today the NFL protects and discards, who they protect and who they discard. Shedeur Sanders was discarded. I don't even know if he technically was an employee, but his phone number was sent to 2,000 people by the NFL itself, who sits at the top, who is the league itself. So approximately 60 people per team for all 32 teams had Shedeur Sanders' draft phone number. I think they thought it was his personal number. So this is where it gets interesting. The prank itself, the information to identify the old Miss Caller, is slow to come. Yesterday, we talked about how the daughter of the GM, goes to Ole Miss, penned a heartfelt letter to Jackson Dart. So that satisfied the Ole Miss connection for the prank caller, right? Now, if you check AI today, it's wrong. It tells you, if you check AI, that the defensive coordinator's son made the call. That's not correct. And the fact that that is incorrect and AI tells you somebody is intentionally trying to make sure we do not know the identity of the person in that Ole Miss sweatshirt. Because if the daughter went to Ole Miss and the phone number came from an executive, the Atlanta Falcons, and then the New York Giants defamed Shedeur Sanders, and Joe Schoen has Shedeur Sanders' phone number, how did it fall into the hands from one Ole Miss connection to another? Supposedly, the number came from the son of the defensive coordinator, but we don't know that. That's what we were told. We were told he wrote it down. I challenge that because young people don't write down anything. They record everything. As you could see, it was being recorded, the prank itself. People pointed out, you could see the leg of one person and that he was Black. I'm like, that does not excuse the plot to humiliate Shedeur. The prank was made with inside information and not just Shedeur Sanders' phone number. So here's another piece of information. So we know that the daughter went to Ole Miss, penned a letter to Jackson Dart. The prank caller was Ole Miss. Joe Schoen had Shedeur Sanders' phone number. People on the internet accused his daughter, who goes to Ole Miss, who's friends with Jackson Dart, of being the one to get the number and give it from her dad to the prank caller, because that's the Ole Miss connection. And it's quite believable. It's quite believable. Remember, what we know, we were told. We didn't see where the number came from. We just know what they told us, and we were already lied to once. We were lied to by who? The NFL. The NFL fined Atlanta. But Atlanta did not share Shedeur Sanders' phone number with 2,000 people. The NFL did. So the NFL was already covering for itself. So how do we know that Shedeur Sanders' phone number ended up in the hands of the prank caller from Ole Miss, from directly within the New York Giants organization, who is, by the way, the only organization to defame and slander Shedeur Sanders and lie? Cleveland is on the record. They had a positive experience. Pittsburgh is on the record. They had a positive experience. Titans on the record. They like Shedeur. They love his maturity. What we saw from Shedeur during this entire process, for a very young person to be publicly humiliated in front of 7 million people when they know they are talented and they know they are being done wrong. And then the prank. Trump came along and told you they were stupid. And then what happens on day 3? Cleveland trades from within the 5th round, from 192 to 166, took those 2 picks and went to 144. That's how you know they was forced into it, because that is asinine. You heard yesterday, or if you heard the press conference at all, Andrew Berry say, when he was asked by a reporter, what did you think on day 3 when you went to the draft to conduct business? What did you think when you realized that morning Shedeur Sanders is still on the board when you got to work? His response was, and I quote, and it is documented, well, we'll just see how low he goes. So, okay, Cleveland, I said it multiple times on the record, was hard and hot and heavy behind Shedeur Sanders. Even after CU Pro Day, they had dinner with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. Andrew Berry was also asked on the record, did you realize that you traded away Travis Hunter and traded up in the same round from picks 166 and 192 to 144 to get Shedeur. Do you know what he said? I didn't really think about it. With a straight face, which means he lies all the time. Didn't even flinch. Either he been in the mirror practicing or he lies daily. So new information came out that the entire time the Browns were hot and heavy and chasing Shedeur Sanders, they were secretly meeting with Dillon Gabriel. So Cleveland made their courtship and interest in Shedeur public, but kept their interest in meetings and private workouts and dinners with Dillon Gabriel private. Now, why do you think that is? Put it in the chat. Why would you say publicly, I don't think I'd have an issue with Coach Prime. We like Shedeur. We had a positive experience with him. We met with him extensively. We know who he is, yada, 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 but you don't pick him. Andrew Berry says, well, we thought he was expensive relative to the draft. So why did you meet with him so many times? Because his price did not change. That's a lie. They were told to not draft him in the first round because first round talent at the quarterback position is generally QB1. If you look up the depth chart in Tennessee, Cam Ward is listed as QB1. If you look up the depth chart for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Travis Hunter is wide receiver 1, and he is cornerback 2 or 3. I think he's CB2 and wide out 1, which means he's going to play both ways, but he's not starting at corner. And I'm happy he's starting at wide receiver. Maybe they asked him, but that's a different video. So imagine somebody chasing you endlessly, pursuing you, making it public to everybody. I don't have a problem with Coach Prime. We love Shedeur. Keep meeting with him over and over and over. You meet with Shedeur and Travis. And then there are people that insist that Cleveland passed on Shedeur like the other 31 teams because he's problematic, because he's legendary, because he tweets #legendary, because he has an entourage, because he's entitled, which is purely subjective, because he never plays on time, because he would experience a culture shock of what a real NFL locker room is like his daddy did not play, because he was trying to showboat like a quarterback, but he should have been humble like a quarterback. All of these flimsy reasons are not holding weight at all. They should be lucky Shedeur is not suing them because he got a case, and a big one. So Andrew Berry is very nonchalant where Shedeur is concerned, as if, we were never going to pick him, but you met with him extensively because the coach sitting next to you said it. And you hid that you met with Dillon Gabriel. So did you keep Dillon Gabriel a secret so Shedeur doesn't move on from you? Because it is said that Shedeur Sanders, the last time Tennessee wanted to meet with him again, he was like, well, all due respect, y'all seem really interested in Cam. And he didn't want to, I think he wanted Cam to get that. You can't be mad at him for that. Because at this point, you're harassing me. And the Giants did the same thing. The same exact thing. After CU, the Giants tried to slap another meeting with Shedeur after they were already trashing him. So it's like, let me kick him and embarrass him and lie on him, but then force him to come sit in front of me. That's bullying. The one team that should be forced to be sold is the New York Giants. Because right now, there is a concerted effort after it was already a cover up and a cover up exposed to cover up the identity of that Ole Miss prank caller to the point they willing to lie and say it's the defensive coordinator's son. Now, let me tell you the danger in that. There's a lot of people in Atlanta that's not happy about what happened. And the fact that it came out that the NFL did it might have cooled people down just a little bit, but I don't know if everybody really knows that. because they didn't make it go widespread, because they trying to cover. They are trying to cover. So now, if you look it up, it says that the defensive coordinator's son was the one that made the call. There's only one story from Bleacher Report that said the call was made by a friend, and nobody will say who that is. So let me give you an idea of what was happening. This is draft night. The executives are all together, maybe spread out in a few locations, but they were all together. Now, we didn't see any executives in the same place with draft prospects outside of Green Bay. So I saw Jackson's dart party. It was huge. Big house, huge. Don't know whose house it is. Is it possible he was at the house of somebody from the New York Giants? Is that his house? Was the New York Giants at his house? Was the call made from Jackson Dart's house? Was it made from Joe Schoen's house? Was it made from the defensive coordinator's house? Because his son was there. His son was there. So was his son a guest at the Ole Miss prank caller's house? Or were they both sons of executives in the NFL? And they were all at a draft party waiting for people to be drafted. Something that needs to be investigated. Right? So then we move past the daughter. She's the Ole Miss connection. Boom. I knew there was a connection from the Giants to Ole Miss. I knew it, because why would you want to make the prank call? Why wouldn't the person that supposedly took the information make the prank call? And to this moment, we really don't know. That could be a lie, just like it was a lie that Atlanta sent out the information. We have been lied to the point where they have scapegoated the Atlanta franchise, and they have documented as to who made the call. Now, what if something happens to that young man and he really didn't do it, but they covering for who the other person is? Now, why would you protect the Ole Miss prank caller who clearly has ties to the daughter, to the organization, the New York Giants? Why would you throw Jax Ulbrich under the bus and have the information out there on the internet that he did it? But if something happens to him, then what they gonna do? They gonna start fighting and somebody gonna tell the truth. That's what they gonna do. Right now, because they think everything is okay, they okay with putting this kid's name out there as the person that he did it. Only one story is saying, correction, he did not make the call. The call was seen to be made by someone wearing an Ole Miss sweatshirt that was not the defensive coordinator's son. It was his friend. Who do you think his friend is? He does not go to Ole Miss. So is that his friend or somebody else's friend? And one thing about it, he had inside information to know that Shedeur was not going to the Saints. And he also knew Shedeur was not going to the Giants. Why? Because here right in front of you, the night before the draft, the son of the New York Giants GM, who should have been fired after fumbling Saquon Barkley, posted Jackson Dart. And everybody believed that he knew who was being drafted, because it said that when Jada Daniels got drafted, he was the one that told his daddy to trade up to get Jada Daniels. So see, we have kids with all of this information. They letting them make picks. They letting them make the decision for Jackson Dart to go there. They're advocates for Jack. You see how these young people have all of this information that they should not have? It should not be public information before the draft, that your children know who's getting drafted, because as you can see, they're putting it on the internet. So when people accused his daughter, who goes to Ole Miss, who penned a heartfelt letter to Jackson Dart because they're friends, and the prank caller was also from Ole Miss, people believed that she gave him the number, and they quickly swooped in and said she didn't do it. So Jax Ulbrich got the number. Jax Ulbrich made the call, and we are clearly not watching Jax Ulbrich make the call. So why they swoop in so fast to protect the daughter, and why are they protecting The Ole Miss sweatshirt guy. Is that her boyfriend? Is that somebody's son? Why keep it a secret? Y'all throwing Jax Albridge under the bus. We don't even know if he actually ever had the number. We don't know if he really got the number from. I think what's really happening is the New York Giants are in trouble. They defamed this young man. They lied on him. They are the reason that supposedly, if he never met with the owners, that the owners believe he's entitled and said he should come off the board. Now they don't want to answer questions about the interviews that they claim were the worst interviews in the history of the NFL. The way Shedeur handled this with class and his composure, which we see on the field, tells you that that's a lie. His daddy said it. He's seen it all. So the New York Giants, all eyes are pointing that way. And I feel like we're waiting. We're waiting for somebody to be fired. Is it going to be Andrew Berry? Because he's the speaker representing the Cleveland Browns, and he's continuing on with the entitled narrative by saying Shedeur has to earn his keep, like he's a slacker. Just because you're a celebrity, we're not giving you anything, as if this young man is not a hard worker. But I thought you spent extensive time with him. You said it yourself. He's a good kid, and we know he's going to come in here and work hard. So why are you trying to paint the picture that, one, he's undesirable, and two, he needs to earn his keep? Like he's a stray with fleas, and you just got to take him in the house. And we weren't going to draft him. But you didn't tell us when you made a decision not to, because we know you courted him because you put it out there publicly. Or did you want to get the views? Were you exploiting him for views, and you were never going to pick him or Travis? Because if you didn't think about the transaction that you made to trade away generational talent and Travis Hunter, and you was going to sit there and wait to see how low the best QB in the draft go, you lying, bro. You lying, and you keeping up this farce that this kid is entitled when that has been proven to be a lie, but you want to keep it up. Why? You think you protecting your job? Because I already know you on the clock. You know how I know you on the clock? Ain't nobody talking but you. This decision was you. All you. The coach had great things to say. We know Shedeur. He's great. Which basically counteracts the bullshit that you selling. So if you thought distancing yourself from Shedeur Sanders after you chased him down while you were secretly courting Dylan Gabriel, maybe you was never going to take Shedeur. And you on the record basically saying, yeah, I know I passed up Travis Hunter, but I wasn't really thinking about it. And people calling out, you could have had Shedeur and Travis. So why wouldn't you want Shedeur and Travis if after the CU game, the CU Pro Day, you had dinner with them? Because people would probably ask, since you need a quarterback and you're not getting Shedeur, why would you only get Travis? And maybe you didn't want to get Travis or Shedeur because you know you stabbing Shedeur in the back. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. He's lying. In my opinion, he gonna get fired. His contract is up in 2026. I would not renew a person who could sit up with a straight face and say that the best QB in the draft has outdated skills. He's old school. When the number 2 QB in the draft, which was supposed to be Shedeur, is also a pocket passer. And the one that they just paid $330 million to, Josh Allen, who's actually a dual threat, is working to become a pocket passer. And when he was asked by reporters, Barry was asked by reporters, will Shedeur get an opportunity to compete, something we all are waiting to find out? He didn't say yes or no. It was a simple yes or no question. Of course, yes. His answer was, we expect everybody to compete. That was not answering the question. I do not trust this guy. If he is not renewed, good. Because his melanin is not convincing us of anything. Let me see who's in here before we move on. I'm a new sub, and I noticed you always open up with the school band playing. Did you go to the school? No, I am an HBCU grad though. So, and I live, what is it, east of the Mississippi. So I think it's one of the ones closest to me. I've been to ASU a couple of times. And I don't know if y'all know, but there was a dance show called Bring It. Y'all remember probably Carmen. You probably remember Princess, Christiana, Faith, all the girls that were with Miss Diana, DD4L, the Dancing Dolls. Okay, the young lady that's the captain, front row center, is Princess. She's the one her mom would drive from Memphis to Jackson, Mississippi every practice so Princess could be trained by Miss Diana. Bring It. It's on Lifetime. It was on for like 5 seasons. They followed the moms. They followed the dancers. They had the baby dolls. So yeah, that's who that is. That's Princess. If you followed the show. So DD4L up the chat if y'all know what the show is or who Princess is. So yeah, no tiptoeing. Yeah, they tiptoeing around collusion. The media, the stories about the prank caller are 6 days old with the wrong information, which means they're backing away from the story because they know exactly. Just like the NFL knew when it fined the Atlanta Falcons for sharing or not protecting Shedeur's information, the NFL knew they had done it. They were scapegoating their own franchise, just like they scapegoating this man's son. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I would not allow anybody to scapegoat anybody I'm related to in something that was ugly and federal and criminal against somebody who has 3 million followers. Because if something happens to that young man, him and his wife gonna get a divorce because I know they argued about it. Don't let him take the fall for that. Because what if they hurt him? She's right. And why would they throw their son under the bus but protect this old Miss Prank caller? Everybody want to be on demon time until they get slayed by a demon. Somebody from within is going to talk because now people are going to be like, why are you protecting him? And he didn't do it. And y'all lied. And it wasn't Atlanta. And the organization's going to be fighting it. Everybody want to be on demon time till they get slayed by a demon. They protecting old Miss Caller, but they throwing this man's son under the bus. And by the way, the NFL has not been fined for Shedeur Sanders' draft phone number to 2,000 people who did not need to know. Atlanta still has to pick up the fine. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Shedeur Sanders' experience in the 2025 NFL draft highlights the complexities and potential biases present in draft evaluation. Oh, it's not potential. It's not potential at all. It's the overt racial discrimination against Black QBs in the NFL draft. It is not potential at all. And that's what I mean by people keep tiptoeing. They want to say collusion, and what they really mean is racist. The interesting thing to me is people are truly afraid to call out the NFL for racism, which it is already documented that they have violated people's civil rights, Black people, not anybody. The fact that it's already documented and they want to tiptoe around something that's already documented tells you that these people want to be associated with this. That's really what it is. You just don't want to, you know about it. You know it's wrong. But because I want to be associated, I'm not going to hold you accountable. Well, see, Colin Kaepernick actually held the NFL accountable, who, by the way, was guilty of collusion, which I have told you is their favorite crime. And then he still wanted to be associated. I don't understand that. I don't understand it at all. And maybe it's because the money outweighs the money, the fame, what comes with it, the exposure. Maybe it outweighs racism. I don't know how that could be because it's still happening. I could see if after Colin Kaepernick, the NFL had not done anything else that was racist. The Race Norman $1 billion settlement was 2021. I share the same clip every day, and people still doubt the fact that the NFL is discriminating against Black QBs. I have pointed out the evidence. A lot of people get it, but there are some people, they, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because they don't know, for the most part, how a lot of Black QBs have been treated. So maybe that's why they don't get it, because they don't know. They're like, well, it can't be racism because Cam Ward. Okay. That means you don't understand the history of slavery, the practices of buck breaking, or of taking one slave and tying him to a tree and basically torturing him in front of the others so the others can get the message. People said the NFL was trying to humble Shedeur. I will say it again. I have never heard anybody tell a white person that they need to humble themselves. That is a word that is used to restrict, reduce, or prevent, or make you mindful about celebrating your accomplishments as Black people. Stop using that. That is used so you don't cheer and celebrate in front of them. You know why I like grad season so much? Because we get to see all of the Black excellence. I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's not potential bias. They're already on the record for discriminating. It's not potential. They've already done it multiple times. So my question is, and this is my real question here, and I thought about this today. So at what point, with all of the documentation, the documented history against Black NFL players, Black NFL quarterbacks, when is it going to be too bad? When do they get to the point where they're like, I can't do this no more? What is it going to take? Because after Shedeur, I don't know how. I don't know what you're waiting on. I mean, Lamar Jackson has been snubbed 3 times, colluded against 3 times. Once in the draft. So my question is, like they ask people who are in abusive relationships, at what point is enough enough? At what point do you start your own league? For Black men, by Black men, to respect Black men. Football players, professional football players. I learned something today. I learned that many of the stadiums where like they have the bowl games, high school championships, even the NFL plays their soccer games. I learned that a lot of those stadiums that the NFL plays in, they don't own those stadiums. Those stadiums are owned by the city, county, local government, sometimes the state. Mercedes-Benz, I learned today, Mercedes-Benz is owned by the state of Georgia. So anybody who can afford to lease it for a pro league can play there. That does not belong to the Atlanta Falcons. So that's not a hurdle for a Black-owned professional football league. Venue is not a hurdle. Then attendance. I sat down and I looked. I said, I'm an HBCU grad. I know these classics, HBCU classics, and there are about 20 of them, have good attendance. There are at least 5. There's 4 for sure. 50, 60,000 and above. Magic City Classic, Florida Classic, Bayou Classic, Heritage Classic, Florida Classic. Magic, if I say Magic City, okay. So here's the thing. You already have an audience. Coach Prime, which is why I want Coach Prime to do it. Coach Prime, because his son just got snubbed. resurrected Jackson State football. Had the vet packed. I know because I was there, even in the rain. If there are a total of 20 HBCU classics, which don't get advertised, and 5 of them can garner 50, 60, 70,000 people, with the Bayou Classic being the biggest at 74,000. You mean to tell me a league made up of professional Black football players who get equity in the league because they are the founders, they are the first year, can't get 10 games in stadiums owned by municipalities when HBCUs have 5 classics, 50,000 and above? 10 games. And they don't advertise the classic. That's on a, if you know, you know. Imagine if they advertise and you don't need ESPN. So for your marketing, you're not paying ESPN. You're not paying Fox, and you don't need to. Shedeur Sanders' brother, Bucky Osakin, for draft week alone, they already said he makes a gaggle of money. He making more than some of these 5th, 6th, and 7th round draft picks. Hell, he making more than some of these 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round draft picks. To the point where people joke with Shiloh after he didn't get the invite to the combine that he need to pick up a camera, and he said, if y'all knew how much Bucky made, you wouldn't even say that. Hell, I probably should. And if he don't make the team, then he should. But Shiloh's good. But are they going to give him a fair chance? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. They still on the same BS. They won't even identify the real person that did it. They willing to scapegoat Atlanta and the son of the DC when they know better. You can't trust nobody like that. So my question is, when is enough enough? You have access to venues, HBCU classic games that go unadvertised, have 50, 60, 70,000 in attendance. And these games are in one season every year. And this is the average attendance. Marketing. You get somebody like Well Off Media and somebody else, and y'all stream this on social media during draft week. Bucky's videos, I think, pushing at 1 million each. And he already has videos at 1 million. I said it should be Coach Prime because the Sanders are a cultural phenomenon, and wherever Coach Prime goes and sprinkles the Prime effect, it turns into gold. And since his son, the quarterback's son, was plotted against, discriminated against, defamed, and publicly humiliated in front of 7 million people and exploited for likes. They exploit him for his fame, but they mad that he is famous. They don't give him the benefit of the doubt or the fact that they could be wrong about anything when they are sitting on TV saying, yeah, it's crazy that he's saying be legendary. I'm like, that's manifestation. That's why I say be legendary. They so quick to be harsh on him. Why? Because they don't want him in the league. I told y'all they were scared of him. They afraid his brand gonna be bigger than theirs. That's what they're afraid of. That his brand, that Shedeur Sanders brand, will be bigger than theirs. So this right here on the screen is the statement that February 20th, it was published. So somewhere between February 1st, February 15th, before or on February 20th, it says it right here. You can read it. An NFL insider, probably an executive, told Mel Kiper Jr., so he knows exactly who it is if this ever goes to court, said that the NFL does not want quarterbacks, plural, like, keyword, Shedeur Sanders. So we refuted this because of Coach Prime. No. Quarterbacks. So when we hone in on quarterbacks in plural, this is specific to quarterbacks. And we've already pointed out what? We've already pointed out that Black NFL quarterbacks are treated badly in the NFL draft. They are devalued. Shedeur Sanders is not the first to be devalued. It's the most extreme. So if we have at least 5 classics that go unadvertised and have 35, 45, 50, anywhere from 35 to 75,000 in attendance, all NFL games don't have that. Jacksonville has been sparse. Tennessee has been sparse. If 7-on-7 can come along, and now the crowds are starting to swell at their games, they essentially started a league out of thin air. Several former athletes own the teams, and a few rappers. Gunna owns a team, and his team just won a championship. And guess where they're going to play one of their games? Because they travel. The Rose Bowl. You mean to tell me, after all of this discrimination against your own people and yourselves, being told that you're inferior, that your people inferior, your claims being denied for concussions because your brain has lower cognitive function, and they're happy to pay the white players? That's just what's happening in the league. They're happy to pay Josh Allen, who's a dual threat quarterback, but they keep snubbing Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he eventually got paid, but he had to argue about it for two years. And to the point where he ended up, just like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, alleging collusion, and they won. In February, it was little reported. The NFL was found guilty of collusion right before the Super Bowl. In fact, that's when they let it come out so it could just, go away. And they had to use an arbitrator. 60-page document. Nobody's talking about it. The things that they do wrong, people know about, but they don't get talked about. And the media knows everything. And they choose to bypass it, just like the story about the Ole Miss prank caller and the connection to the New York Giants, who is the only team to defame Shedeur Sanders, who are now backing away from them saying what they said about his interviews being the worst, because his mom, Miss Pilar, came out and said, provide the evidence, because that's what you're going to need to do when they go to court. I have asked myself, how long is it going to be before the NFL gives Shedeur his money? Because they robbed him of $70 million. There are damages here. You can prove it. Because everybody knows, until the morning of the draft, he was a top 3, top 4 first round pick. And then when the draft started, they decided to lock him out of the first round. And they pushed him so far down by their logic. Their logic, their belief is 5th round QBs don't start, as if that's what's going to hold Shedeur Sanders back. Y'all couldn't even keep him out the goddamn draft. God kicked that door wide open. You couldn't keep him out the draft. And every day you're being exposed, and we're getting closer and closer to finding out who is wearing that Ole Miss sweater. Because clearly there's a connection to the New York Giants that people don't want to get out because of how the New York Giants defamed Shedeur Sanders. It's a smoking gun. So 7-on-7 could start magically out of thin air, play in a Rose Bowl, but NFL players experience racism after racism, discrimination after discrimination, going back to 1920 to 2025, and it just seems that either they don't know or they comfortable dealing with racism, that they have not sat down, even being inspired by 7-on-7, even paying somebody to do a little research, or they can do it themselves because it didn't take long, that they should start their own league, because they are the money makers. They are the bread and butter. As badly as they discriminate against the NFL players who are Black, that tells you if they could make the type of money, the billions, without them, they would. They need you. And you are working hard so they can give you table scraps, millions, while they rake in triple-digit billions. And your contract not guaranteed. Everybody that got drafted, nobody's contract, except for I think maybe one, is guaranteed. I was like, well, what are they signing if they all have to try out for the team? I looked it up. It said nobody is guaranteed a spot. I'm like, what? Surely Cam Moore got to be guaranteed a spot because his contract guaranteed. So clearly he's going to be on the team. I would imagine Travis needs to not do anything. But there are a lot of people that need to try out who putting out pictures. I'm doing this. I'm in the NFL. I'm doing that. That 53-man roster going to make a reality for a lot of people. I posted earlier today. I called the segment after it's all said and done. I was talking about the NFL draft because every day I covered from the Shrine Bowl to the combine to the draft. So the things that we as a podcast community talked about before the draft, now that it's all said and done, I'm reposting it because some of them are gems. We talked about how Tennessee had better choose either Cam, Travis, Abdul Carter, somebody. Somebody. Because if not, their fans was going to burn down their stadium because they don't want Will Levis anymore. We talked about how Black QBs, the young ones that start, get sacked relentlessly. And I put together a slide. From 3 years, 25, I believe 24, and 23, showing who was sacked the most. Russell Wilson is on one of the lists. Looked like he was still in Denver. I'm thinking this had to be about the time the collusion case was taking place. He got sacked 100 times. I didn't even know that was possible. And like I said on the video, the pre-draft, revisiting the draft, pre-draft conversations, I said I have a theory. I find it very interesting that the young Black QBs that are started are the ones that are being sacked excessively. So that's why I put together the slide, because guess what? It's true. It's true. So let's see if I can get it up here. I'm going to check the chat while it loads. See how everybody doing. Shedeur Sanders experience. Yep. Despite his credentials and performance, various factors contributed to his unexpected draft position, underscoring the need for more transparent and equitable evaluation system within the NFL. No, they need an actual evaluation system and not a buddy system, because that's exactly what happened in New York. Not only is Jackson Dart and Joe Sean's daughter friends and classmates and went to Ole Miss, Abdul Carter went to school and is friends with Brian Dabaugh's daughter. And I find it very interesting that reports are starting to come out. Oh, Abdul Carter was pranked too. New York. Something's going on with New York. They covering. That even further solidifies the collusion taking place in New York. New York wanted their guy at QB, Jackson Dart. It was already discussed within their inner circle, the executives, the principals, the people at the top, that New York didn't want Shedeur. Not that he's not good. They wanted to continue what they've been doing, getting QBs from Ole Miss with the Mannings, because it said Eli Manning wanted Jackson Dart. He was their fave. And in my opinion, I don't see why you feel the need to defame somebody because you want to get somebody else. Because from what I have seen of the NFL, they do what the hell they want to do. They do what the hell they want to do. So I don't even know why you had to defame Shedeur to get Jackson Dart. And you didn't do it to get Abdul Carter. You did it to get Jackson Dart because they both are quarterbacks. And in my opinion, you drafted Abdul Carter because you know you wanted to block Shedeur. I talked about that today. I said 2 teams could be problematic. I said Tennessee depends on what they do, and they end up picking Cam. I said, quote, unquote, but New York could be blocking. And I said the fix is in. That was March 1st. March 1st. There's several things that I have already called already. So I'm calling it again. That Ole Miss prank caller has a connection to the New York Giants and they don't want it to get out. And that's the last piece to the puzzle that we need. I don't really need it, but that's the last piece of the puzzle that's waiting to come out. I'm really trying to find out what point you are trying to make. You seem, well, it's funny because you in my chat, so you're gonna have to figure it out. So there you go. Two, let's see. Two has been a celebrity since college, right? So they want to exploit him for his status, but they want to knock him as a good QB. And that's what's happening here. So it's starting to make things are starting to make sense. That's why I said time brings clarity. So when you hear Andrew Berry say, it's a lot that follows him, but we want him to earn his keep. In other words, yes, you a celebrity in real life, but we need you to prove that you're a good quarterback. I think he's both. I think it's already been proven. And you know what I started to think today? If you were around before Colorado played its first game, this is the same rhetoric. They can't do it. Shedeur's not good. And they went on to go 3-0 until they started getting sabotaged from within. Then they came back the second year. I tell people the Baylor game alone, Shedeur Sanders was sacked 8 times, kept his poise, figured out where the weakness on the O-line was, escaped it for the Hail Mary pass to LaJohntay Wester, who just went to the Baltimore Ravens, who going to be with Lamar Jackson. It's the same rhetoric. He's not good. So everywhere Shedeur has to go, he has to prove himself. When he was in high school, the public school community said he wasn't good because he was at a high school, a private high school. But if you go to 2 to 3 championships, you good. I don't care. Your coaching is good too. And Coach Prime didn't start out as the head coach. He started out as the offensive coordinator and moved up to the head. Shedeur for clicks. A lot of people use Shedeur for like the lead, his name. People said it. Oh, I think they did that to him because they wanted us to watch the draft. I'm like, they benefited from the humiliation. They was never going to draft him. He was going to go undrafted, or as some people say, Mr. Irrelevant last. Like Andrew Berry say, let's see how far he goes. It's almost as if Andrew Berry does not like Shedeur all of a sudden. But like he said, we were never going to pick him. But you interviewed with him extensively and made that public, while at the same time or simultaneously, you kept it private about Dillon Gabriel. Cleveland is not innocent here, and Andrew Berry is guilty as hell, and he is straight up lying with a straight face. He lying so much, he don't even have a poker face. He just used to lying. $60 million a year is market value. Potential Lil, $60 million a year is the market value for desperate treatment involves intentional discrimination, meaning the employer knowingly made a decision based on protected circumstances, personal characteristics or protected characteristics. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. When this person, that's why this is on the screen. When this NFL insider communicated to Mel Kiper Jr., read what it says. And that's why I put this on the screen. I already said it, but I put it on the screen because it's important to look at the way things are worded. These people know what they're doing. I asked AI a question. Notice the answer starts with yes. Yes, Mel Kiper Jr. has stated that an NFL insider, this is February 20th, when it first came out, told him that Shedeur Sanders is not the type of quarterback that the league is currently looking for. It says Kuiper shared this insight during a first draft podcast, stating that the insider said Shedeur's not really what we're looking for. So that statement came out before the combine. And then what came out at the combine? Cocky, entitled, this, that, and the other. All flimsy, subjective lies. This young man handled this with grace and class. And I think part of it is because it's his personality, but the other part of it is because he said in advance, they are trying to play God. And now they are backing away from the lies that they told. And then they are caught up in a prank scandal, which falls under the interstate stalking laws, which is federal. He could push it if he wants to. And honestly, the fact that he's not, it's just going to keep on and go keep on, and it's going to keep on until they start fighting within, because they are blaming the defensive coordinator in Atlanta. Well, the defensive coordinator's son is supposed to be the one that made the call and got the number. And that's not true. We see it visually with our own eyes, but they still saying it different, which means they're working overtime to protect. They're working overtime to protect the prank caller, because he is the key to all of it. That the NFL, the owners, the executives all colluded against Shedeur Sanders, discriminated against him, took part. The NFL made it possible for the prank to even exist. And the inside information that the people, the callers had, that he wasn't going to the Saints. They were trying to rub Jackson Dart in his face. They clearly fans and friends or cousins or brothers or something of Jackson Dart or the New York Giants. There's a connection that they are trying to hide for a reason. Just like the NFL tried to hide their involvement with sending out his information, the New York Giants are trying to hide their involvement with the prank call. So yeah, it's a lot here. When you live in a world that devalues your existence, where the stress of just being Black in America is constant, it takes a toll, right? It's called toxic stress. It leads to depression, anxiety. Exactly. I said it when we were talking about it. Racism has negative effects on your health. Most times you don't tell people about it. It's prolonged. You can't typically get away from it because it generally happens at work. I mean, if it happened at the coffee shop, you can get up and leave. But when it's happening at your job and that's your livelihood, it's stressful. But then when they block you and take your money, see, they messing with his money, but they mess with every Black QB's money. And if they don't mess with their money, I should say most, when they don't mess with their money because they make it in the draft like Cam made it, that's who gets sacked. So you either getting it in college, or you getting it pre-draft, you getting it in the draft, or you catching hell in the league when you actually get to the league. So, what I'm saying is, when is enough for these guys? Colin Kaepernick should have been enough for them to start thinking, can we get our own league? Lamar Jackson should have been enough for them to go, I think I got a little bit more information. We might need to revisit that. And Shedeur Sanders should have been a full stop. Shedeur Sanders should have been like, okay, no. And the fact that this not just only happens to Shedeur. If you want to explain away Colin Kaepernick, he took a settlement. Okay, cool. How do you explain Lamar Jackson? He doesn't do anything. He's not problematic. He doesn't cause any problems. The lack of respect for Black people that the league has, because you can see it with their policies and practices that they're paying $1 billion for, their current hiring practices, their previous history, and their current behavior. They have problems. All right, so I think I'm getting ready to get to this document. I'm looking for, I put together a slide that has the QBs, the QBs who have been sacked the most on one list. Russell Wilson was at 100. That's absurd. Put on some music because I need this to load. All right, let's see. Here it is right here. All right, good job. All right, so, I'm gonna make this larger so y'all can see. Take the comments off the screen just so we can have more real estate. All right, so here we go. Okay. So you see right here, Caleb Wilson. You know, he came in with the last class, 68 sacks. Caleb Wilson was sacked 68 times. There were already conversations. How many times is Shedeur Sanders going to be sacked? CJ Stroud, this is his sophomore year, was sacked 52 times. We've talked about that. We've talked about how excessively he was sacked after a stellar year. So it just didn't make any sense. And I was like, this is weird. And then we have Geno Smith. Geno Smith was sacked, is that 56 times? 50 times? Now, Geno Smith was also like Shedeur, a first round projected draft pick until the day of the draft. And then he had to come back the second day like Shedeur. But I think he ended up going in the second round. He was furious because he was treated the same way as Shedeur. And then after he was drafted, he was like Shedeur might be done. And that was my concern. I told y'all he might end up like Geno Smith, that he would be bounced around from sorry team to sorry team. He went from the Jets to the Giants to the Chargers, and then ended up in Seattle, and then took them to the playoffs, and they claim he resurrected his career. See, they always blaming the QB. It's not Geno Smith. It's the position you put him in, because when you pushed him down to the second round, you knew where he was going to end up, and you knew that team was sorry. These people orchestrate these moves. They plan these moves. This is not random. They have a board. They have thought this out. Just like Cleveland was secretly meeting with Dillon Gabriel and publicly meeting with Shedeur Sanders. It now appears that either they were told not to draft him, or they was just toying with him and giving him a false sense of accomplishment, and they were always going to take Dillon Gabriel. But I want you to pay attention to the 4 QBs in Cleveland. It's said often, Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel got to fight it out. Both of them are what? Persons of color. Wow. The 2 white QBs are safe. Nobody's saying Kenny Pickett has to duke it out with anybody if he don't get cut. But the person that's supposed to get cut is Shedeur Sanders. So that's Geno Smith. Then it goes to Sam Darnold and Joe Burrow. So the top 3 who was sacked the most: Caleb Wilson, CJ Stroud, and Geno Smith. And that's in 2024. Now, Geno Smith was sacked 50 times, but he still went to the play. I mean, they still had a good season. If they might have went to the playoffs, I think. They had a good record, though. They had a good record. Now he shifted off again. So to me, it seems like once they find success, like Jalen Hurts, that team was picked apart. I mean, they even took the backup QB. I'm like, why would you take the backup QB? Like, why would you dismantle a Super Bowl team? Like, have the Kansas City Chiefs ever been dismantled so quickly, so fast, and with so many people going away, they having to rebuild almost? If so, cool. So then we have Russell Wilson. I think this was 23. Sacked 100 times. Then Justin Fields. Then Geno Smith. So again, the top 3 QBs sacked the most. Out of the 3, 1 veteran and 2. Well, really, CJ Stroud wasn't a rookie, but he was the year before. So I'll go with 2 vets and 1 rookie, all black. Then Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Geno Smith. All three of them are veterans, but of the three, Russell was the only one integral to the collusion case. Geno Smith 77 times, Justin Fields 99 times. Then we have Bryce Young. Bryce Young was sacked 91 times. CJ Stroud 90 times. And then Geno Smith again. Lord. If I had to guess, I don't know what team Geno Smith was on at the time, but geez, I'm like, man, I'm gonna go with the least amount of times he was sacked was what, 32? I don't know who he was with then. No, not 32. What is that? No, the least amount of times he was sacked was 56. He might have been a 50-something, 50. He might have been in Seattle by then because Geno Smith made the list 3 times. Bryce Young, I feel like was a rookie. And CJ Stroud, I do believe was a rookie. And if CJ Stroud was sacked 90 times and still took his team to some kind of divisional playoff against the Kansas City Chiefs, shout out to CJ Stroud for putting the team on his back. But they didn't let him have it in the second year. So, yeah, the top 3 QBs sacked the most are black. Geno Smith is across the board. Russell on here once, 100 sacks. And if you look up the collusion case, I'm pretty sure it was happening about that time. It was about the money because they are paying Deshaun Watson all that money. Right. And we have talked about Deshaun Watson's contract. We have asked the question, okay, he had a fully guaranteed contract that they refused to give to anybody else, which actually kind of was part of that collusion case where they were found guilty. They were found guilty. They talking about Shedeur probably going to end up being the long-term solution because they feel like the owner forced the GM to be urgent about getting Shedeur. I feel like the owner himself was forced in it because I told y'all they don't think independently. They make decisions as a group because what one does affects the other. Incestuous, excessively close. Hey, Tommy. Hey, how you doing? Trump calling the owner stupid is the kettle. You know what? That was Jerry. I'm like, and then when the Eagles went to the White House, he went right back to who he was before. It's crazy. Can you get this information to somebody in Congress? I don't know. I guess you would have to. I mean, you could present it to them, but I don't know where it would go. And I'm not a person to tell anybody that's not going to work unless I know based on experience it's not going to work. Somebody else asked me that about Jasmine Crockett, getting it to her. First you need a labor lawyer and civil rights attorney. Yep. Then get congressional member to inquire with the Justice Department and civil rights. Right. And we probably going to have to wait till after an impeachment hearing for that to happen. Hello. I feel like I'm telling y'all, the longer this drags out, the harder they try to fight. Not identifying this prank caller that they know exactly who it is. They're going to start fighting because I'm telling you, to throw the defensive coordinator's son under the bus. And we really don't know if he did it or not. That's what they told us, but they also had lied to us already. But let's say he did get the number. Why they don't want to identify the person with the Ole Miss sweater? They don't want him to be punished. Why is that? Did they tell him to do it? And because they told him to do it, he gonna tell us that they told him to do it? There's a reason that this is happening like it is. And we already saw the NFL lie and hide behind the Falcons and throw the Falcons under the bus. So the Falcons got thrown under the bus knowing that the NFL knew it was them. And the defensive coordinator's son has been thrown under the bus by them saying he made the call. If something happens to that kid, that's wrong. They just why you don't protect him, but you protecting the other one. That's how you know. It's huge. Because I'm not protecting no random dude who was invited by a +1 and they were in the back being stupid. Who's protecting stupidity that you're not familiar with? You see what I'm saying? He's not random. He's not random at all. They don't want to implicate him. And it could be because they told him to do it, or they knew he was going to do it. They will turn on each other. Yup, that's exactly what's going to happen. So here's what I want to happen. All right. They are going to turn on each other. It's going to take a minute, but the fact that the kid is on the internet as the one that did it and he didn't, and the Falcons didn't do it, and the NFL did. Yeah. And then they protecting this old Miss guy. They protecting the daughter, but they refuse to protect the Albrights. Yeah. So Shedeur Sanders was or has 3 ads in rotation. Shedeur has 3 ads in rotation. He has Ralph Lauren, Gatorade, and Delta Airlines in rotation right now. So I posted it on Threads. I posted it on Instagram. And I said, and I posted it on YouTube. I said, you can't keep God's favorite down. So in addition to the best-selling jersey of his class, the locker room loving him, the city of Cleveland, which is apparently a lot of people are Black. I don't know if it's safe to say majority, but there's a large Black population there. Love him. Which are all things to make Andrew Berry change his tune, but he's sticking to the script. That's how you know he lying. This is not somebody that you shun. This is somebody that you know gonna make you money. So you welcome him with open arms. You don't lie on him. You don't act like he's not valuable. You don't tell him to earn his keep. You tell him, I want you to compete for the job. And when people ask you if you're gonna allow Shedeur to compete for the job, to make Shedeur feel valuable, because he's gonna see this too, you say, absolutely. He's on our team, and we want everybody to compete, including Shedeur. He didn't do that. I think Andrew Berry wants Shedeur out of there before anybody. And there's a reason. See, Andrew Berry met with Shedeur how many times? And then you're going to up and turn on him? Okay. There's a reason. Because if you say it's because he's problematic and you thought about your lie because you know you met with Travis and you didn't pick him either, so you can't say that Shedeur is problematic and what happened to Travis. Why you didn't get him? Oh, we were never going to get him. Oh, okay. Just like Deshaun Watson got a guaranteed $200 and some odd million contract after, you know what? Because he knows something. And they made him a scapegoat, just like they did Shedeur. So don't be surprised if somewhere out the blue, Shedeur end up with $100 million after taxes. He could get a bid. Believe me, he can, because technically this could be a class action lawsuit. They just settled a civil rights lawsuit in 2021 for violating the civil rights of Black NFL players. And what they did to Shedeur, 7 million of us saw it. I don't know what they thought was going to happen. And this is how Trump was actually right. They're stupid. That's why I said they sloppy. So what did you expect to happen if he didn't go undrafted? You thought he was going to cry? Right now, working out. He's in the city working out. He's at a facility working out. I'm sure he's not thinking about every day if he gonna make the team or not. Shedeur knows what he brings to the table. He's already had the #1 selling jersey. He's already loved in Cleveland. The locker room likes him. The fans love him. His own merch is sold out. And you gonna cut him? I don't think so. Somebody about to be out of a job, and I think I know exactly who it is. Mr. I wish I had a poker face, but all I do is lie. So shout out to Shedeur Sanders. Y'all show him some love. He was actually, very, very poised when you think he's only 23. For a 23 to deal with this type of racial discrimination in front of 7 million people and humiliation, and then to be stabbed in the back and discarded by the NFL owners that you knew, by the coaches and players that you grew up around with, and by the people that interviewed with you and are on the record to say that y'all had a good experience. Tom Brady. And yeah, I heard today came out that Shedeur and Tom Brady are good. That's because Shedeur is forgiving. Tom Brady is wrong. Jerry Jones. I asked y'all, I said, so what they gonna do when they see him? What they gonna do when they see Coach Prime? What did you think was gonna happen after you either didn't draft him, drafted him last, or now 144. Too bad he can't wear the number 144. So it could be a constant reminder of how they discarded him like he was pure trash when he absolutely the best QB that was in the draft and probably should have gone to Tennessee. But who wants to go there? That organization, I told y'all, had New York Giants tendencies. And I believe that. So Cam might be on this list next year. The sack list that we just looked at. Hey, what she said, glad to be on here tonight. Yay, glad to have everybody. We just chilling. Thank you back, Crowley. Thank you. Thank you, Gracie, for holding it down. The Sanders family should contact Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. They probably already done that. One thing I have learned about Coach Primes, he makes moves in silent like the G in lasagna. I'm telling you, I believe wholeheartedly, because they know that Shedeur name was attached to that waiver wire that went out from the NFL. Now, maybe they didn't know how it went out at first unless somebody told them. But now we all know. See, it's no backing off from that because it ended up in the hands of somebody associated with the only organization to publicly defame him and who are now backing away from their statements. Collusion with damages. See, when Russ, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson had the collusion case, it was true the NFL was found guilty of collusion. But see, the arbitrator said, well, yes, they are guilty, but not enough to award damages. You can't get away from $70 million. I'm going to just go ahead and put it up. It's 100 now. It's 100 now. The closer we get to the Ole Miss prank ID and the connection to the New York Giants, because it's already established. It's already established that they knew they was getting dark, that they was rubbing it in Shedeur's face, that the prank caller is being protected because he is connected to the organization. $100 million. I was going to send out a poll and ask y'all, so how long y'all think it's going to be before the NFL, who don't realize that they get ready to settle with Shedeur, but they get ready to settle with Shedeur? When you start seeing them all down there, flying down there, Jerry Jones, everybody want to go see Shedeur, understand. And they can make it confidential where he can't talk about it, but we going to have to know about it. Because honestly, he wasn't an employee at the time. So to be honest with you, he could have told him, and he still can, you know what? Screw you. I'm out. I'm finna sue you for $1 billion. He could. Or they could be stupid, once again, and cut him. Therefore, he's not associated with the league. And I can turn around and do what? You got it? They better move very carefully, and they better leave him alone. But see, they're not smart enough to leave him alone because they're arrogant. And this is what happens when people are arrogant. They record themselves in the vicinity, in the environment with the people that told them the information that they shouldn't even have. They passed around his phone number like they passed around CJ Stroud test results, like they passed around Lamar Jackson's mental aptitude test results. I guess they were saying, see, their brains are lower functioning than ours. Just like they said when they passed around Shedeur Sanders' phone number, Shedeur Sanders' new phone number, attach a waiver wire to it because you ain't making the team, buddy. We gonna see. Settlement incoming. The connection, the Ole Miss sweatshirt, and the protection that he's getting, and every day it becomes more and more obvious. When you got AI out here lying, somebody had to feed the wrong information for AI to get it. Understand that. AI does not have the ability to think. Somebody is putting this out there intentionally. But Bleacher Report came back and said, it was not the son. That's a correction. It's his friend. Settlement incoming, $100 million. Guaranteed. And it's going to be, I don't even know if they can make it confidential because they supposedly had confidentiality in place with the collusion case that they just lost. So they're about to be found guilty of collusion twice in the same year. If the country was set up the way it should be, the Justice Department would have already been on it. These kids doing all of that But they say Shedeur is, thank you. Shedeur is not the entitled one. He's not. So let's take a listen to Cam Ward being asked about Shedeur. And every NFL player that knows Shedeur better get prepared to be asked about Shedeur. And Cam Ward has some media training here. All right. You see, he looked nice, got his glasses on, got his coat button.
Shedeur with him as well. Shedeur with him as well. What kind of bonding you developed with Shedeur? And the second part of that question, how surprised are you that he wasn't picked in the first round?
I feel a special relationship with him, especially me first getting to know him 5 years ago when I started working with him when I was at UIW. But it did surprise me because he's a good quarterback. He doesn't get a lot of the credit that he deserves, especially the plays that he made in Colorado. A lot of quarterbacks in the country aren't making those plays, and so when he gets his opportunity, I'm pretty sure he'll have it soon today. He'll make sure he'll make plays on the field when he gets his chance.
All right, so he answered it like a professional. I have a bond with him, etc. Yada yada yada. He's gonna get asked this all the time, and I think when it comes to Travis, I'm assuming they're gonna ask him the same thing. But that's like his brother. But I'm not shocked that they asked Cam about it. But these players better get ready. They're gonna keep asking him about Shedeur over and over and over. And honestly, the media, especially the media that interviewed Barry, the GM, they were basically, if you ask me, calling him a liar. Trying to get him to basically answer questions that he's lying about and that the truth could come out about. Like now, you say you were never going to draft Shedeur, but now it comes out. You met extensively with Shedeur publicly, but then you met privately with Dillon Gabriel. Why is that? You say he's overvalued for the market. Let's see when he hit that field, which is why when he asked the question, is he going to compete? What did he say? I expect everybody to compete, not yes or no. And if the owner forced him to take Shedeur and he traded within the same round, which is asinine, he going to get fired because he's not making good decisions. That's what the reporters were pointing out when they said, do you realize that you traded away Travis Hunter? And then you traded up in the 5th round to get Shedeur. And then your response is, I didn't think about it like that. So you incompetent. You incompetent because you didn't have any type of strategy at all. You just out here willy-nilly picking, but you lying. And it can be proven. So to me, the media that interviews Barry is trying to call him out without losing their press badge. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is the congressional representative for Dallas. Okay, that's where Shedeur is from, by the way. They from Dallas. And if that's what you were saying, thank you for that political Lil. Angela C. said, yup. You talking about Miss Diana? Yeah. I sent you a link of the Coach Prime reaction to the Saints pick. It's something there. I heard him say, I'm going to look at it. Thank you. I heard him say they're switching up, and they did switch up. So he looked right up. He said they're switching up, but I'm going to go check it out. And I don't know if y'all knew, but when they were at the house, Cleveland picked, must have been whoever they got. And that's another conversation. Because people are like, are they the ones that picked the defensive tackle? Somebody said, how are you picking a defensive tackle in the 1st round? I'm like, let me see what he looked like. See, long time ago in America, when certain people like the Irish came over to America, there was something called the big land grab. And they let people who were not black run around and grab land. Therefore, getting them a head start, generational wealth, because they could just have it. You didn't have to pay for it. But we had to slave, toil, and sharecrop to get what we got. And then they still took it and burned it or eminent domained it or ran a railroad through it or whatever. To me, what I'm seeing happen in the NFL, and I noticed this last year. And again, I wasn't watching a lot last year. So that'll tell you that it's quite noticeable. When it comes to the white QBs, because I generally follow QBs, but I've noticed it with other people. Did you notice how they protected the tight end that couldn't hold on to the ball but they are the ones responsible for him being in there. And if you ask me, before halftime, which is when I went live, he'd already messed up. And I was like, they got to get dude out of here. They coming. I think he was trying to not get to the second half of the game. Kind of like, I feel like one of the old linemen did for CU. He kept messing up. I said, oh, he don't want to do whatever it is he was sent to do no more. That's how I felt about the tight end. So they let him play toward the end. He kept messing up. There was this one play before the last final mess up. They put number 16 in for Baltimore. He did good. I was like, okay, he can hold on to the ball. He completed the pass. They took him out, put him in, took him right back out. Maybe instead of switching to get somebody who could get the job done, maybe they thought, well, we're going to let him catch his breath. Then they put him back in, and he did what? So they probably was covering their butts by putting the other guy in for a complete pass, knowing they was going to always put the tight end in. That guy was messing up before halftime. But you see how they protected him. We're not making any major changes around here. We are already looking at draft film. Protection. But Lamar Jackson gets thrown under the bus over and over. He can't win the big games. Josh Allen couldn't either. But then they gave Josh Allen $330 million. And understand this. Lamar Jackson had to get snubbed. Lamar Jackson had to get snubbed for Josh Allen to get that money, because how on earth am I going to give a 9 MVP winning, 9 Super Bowl winning, the number 2 QB in the league is documented. He's number 2. You're not the best. How am I going to give you $330 million, but not Lamar Jackson? So Lamar Jackson couldn't win MVP. In fact, people like Emmanuel Acho, who also antagonized Deion Sanders Jr. about Jackson Dart, was one of the people that changed their vote against Lamar. A lot of collusion happened. A lot. And this is why I asked the question when I started, when is enough going to be enough? When are they going to be tired of dealing with this? When are y'all just going to sit down with some people who know how to run businesses, knowing that venues are available owned by local municipalities, knowing that Black people clearly like football because HBCU classics got numbers into the 70,000 in attendance, 60,000 here, 60,000, 59,000 there. And they have way more than 10 classics. And they are not advertised. So you really have no excuse. You absolutely have no excuse with all of the racism and discrimination and collusion back to back, and the cover up and the discarding of who y'all know was one of the best QBs. But that's not just about that, because you could be selfish and go, oh, that's Shedeur, I got to keep my bag. They said your brain is less inferior than the whites. Therefore, your people are less inferior than whites, which is why you have hardly no Black coaches. At the beginning of the year, I think they had 6, now they have 4. They slowly try to get to none, because we believe Mike Tomlin gonna get fired. Somebody posted him saying he's the longest tenured coach. I'm like, and he has no real power. He had 2 Black QBs, and now he have 2 white ones because they took his 2 Black ones away. And today, it was announced that Justin Fields, who I said escaped to the Jets, it was announced today that the Jets are finished with Justin Fields. Let's see who takes his QB1 spot. Let's see. And how that come about. You see what I'm saying? So maybe all of a sudden the new head coach, Aaron Glenn, maybe they took his power away too. Andrew Berry has no power. He said, the owners let us do our jobs. I'm like, they setting you up. They're going to come out here and let you say all this crazy stuff about Shedeur, and they're going to turn right on you, because the fans going to be like, we don't like him because he don't like Shedeur. And the owner going to be, yeah, I told him to take Shedeur. I see it. I don't know how he don't see it. He might want to dust off his resume. I don't know where he going, but considering they trying to make sure there ain't no melanin around there and they bold with it, I'm sure they already have his successor picked out. Kevin Stefanski, people said he didn't want Shedeur. I didn't pick up on that. Or he deserves an Oscar. But Andrew Berry is following the script, and he's setting himself up Because when it's out here that the owner forced him to do it and he had to be urgent about it and he had to make stupid decisions to do it, and the media calling him out for passing up the dynamic duo, Travis and Shedeur, and it's on the public record that he interviewed with Shedeur extensively because Kevin Stefanski said it and I read it. And we were never going to pick him. So you was wasting his time. And now we know you was keeping your courtship and your interest of Dylan Gabriel in the dark. So what you really got on? He don't even see it. They just insulated him because the fans like Shedeur. Stefanski's positive about it. We know who Shedeur is. We know exactly who he is. He's going to be a hard worker. He this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. The owner quietly taking the credit for forcing his GM to do it. I think, is that the GM that supposedly gave the contract to Deshaun Watson? Because if it is, and by the way, right before the draft, Cleveland's owner said, yep, we took a big swing with Deshaun Watson and missed. Suddenly, I guess Andrew Berry don't like Shedeur no more. That was essentially telling the public and him, I'm going to fire you if you get him. So with that bit of information right there, that is essentially saying we're not paying a lot of money for no quarterback. And if you do, it's going to be a problem because you don't think, if I know that he met with Shedeur extensively, you don't think they knew it? So that was the owner basically saying, you better get this guy over here. You ain't tell nobody you've been seeing, Dylan Gabriel. So basically he was forced into moving away from Shedeur and getting Dylan Gabriel. Met with Shedeur extensively, didn't tell nobody about Dylan Gabriel. Owner comes out, we took a big swing and miss, don't spend a lot of money, get him. And he was a Heisman candidate. Number 3, and they still didn't get him to number 94. So Andrew Berry is lying. He distancing himself from Shedeur because he's trying to save his job, but little does he know it's already gone. Him and Tomlin. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see either one of them in the next 2 years. Hello, I'm a new subby as well. Yay! You went to Grambling. Okay, awesome. So yeah, everybody just better get ready to be asked about Shedeur. I'm proud of Shedeur. God is showing him love, kick the door open in him. And ain't talking about, we gonna do this, we gonna do that to Shedeur. Y'all couldn't even keep him out the draft. But you damn sure tried. But you see it didn't happen. So now they're like, passing out the joke, trying to humiliate him about the waiver wire, this, that, and the other. See what happened when you mess with other people like yours catches on fire. And they going to start infighting about that identity that they protecting of that Ole Miss sweatshirt guy. Because even though 6 days ago was when the last reports came out, social media is on it. Social media went at the daughter and they told her she did it. But then the media, social media has to apologize to her. See how they're protecting? You see who they protecting? And the Albriches ought to get the memo. They throwing your son under the bus. Even AI say he did it. So people gonna believe it. And if he get hurt, because people are, not happy about this. Atlanta already said we are not happy about this because they don't play when it comes to Coach Prime. And then the NFL hasn't even been fined. They're letting the fine rest at the footsteps or the desk of the Atlanta Falcons. So they blaming the Falcons, the boy daddy and the boy and, they just, we don't really know if any of that is true. But everything is pointing to Ole Miss and the New York Giants. Everything. But they keep telling us this, but they already lied. That's what I'm like, bro. This crazy. That's why I said, how long is it going to be before the NFL settles with Shedeur Sanders, and then suddenly we find out he has $100 million guaranteed contract because he's going to end up with more than whoever was supposed to go to Cleveland, whoever was supposed to go to the Saints and to Pittsburgh. He definitely going to get paid more than Pittsburgh, and he going to get paid more than the Saints. Whoever, they're going to have to figure out some first-round money, and I'm going to go with Cleveland because it's on the record. It has been verbally stated. Cleveland met with Shedeur extensively. Shedeur and Travis. And then pull the okie doke. So he going to get $100 million. Understand that, because they robbed him of his generational wealth while they out here passing it out to defensive tackles and old Miss QBs, because that's their guy. That's just what I want. I don't care if you want to hear, but you're not going to defame Shedeur Sanders, which tells you that they don't really know these people. They know Coach Prime, but they clearly don't know he had a show and that his son been famous since he was knee-high to a duck. They jealous of his celebrity as if they didn't know. And I said to myself, so y'all mad because he's tweeting be legendary? I mean, you ought to wait until you get an NFL trophies first, like a Super Bowl, before you say something like that. That's manifestation. He don't even get the benefit of the doubt because they wrong. That's when you looking for something. That's when you're looking for anything. So we're going to listen to Stephen A. on his own podcast. This is not copyrighted. This is on Stephen A.'s own podcast, where you can hear him talking about what they said, because the days after the draft, this is why Shedeur didn't get drafted. The owners didn't like him. The coaches didn't like him. He didn't present himself well. He wasn't prepared, yada, yada, yada. And all of that was a lie.
Is not blameless here. I'm going to say what I have to say, knowing that both of them have their hands at least a little bit dirty in all of this. But if you're the National Football League, clearly it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else. And I'm going to tell you, I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion. Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country entering this draft, and 32 teams passed on him? Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times they passed on him. How the hell does that happen? 4 rounds. It doesn't happen to a quarterback. We've never seen anything like this before. We've seen guys drop because of injuries. We've seen guys drop because of off-field issues, but we've never seen a quarterback projected to be a top 20 pick, universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, projected to be a first rounder, in all likelihood a safe bet of a late first rounder, and drop literally to the 5th round. We haven't seen anything like that. And when you're talking about the owners, I'm going to keep in mind, and I tweeted about this, seems very Kaepernick-like, as in Colin Kaepernick. Shedeur Sanders is not blameless here.
So, all right. So when Stephen A. said he wasn't blameless, I was like, I see what you're doing. You want to blame Shedeur, but then you want to call out the owners, but then you want to still be around the owners. So I'm going to blame Shedeur. So I'm going to walk up the middle. That's what he's doing. I'm going to say it again. Everything they said about Shedeur was 1, subjective, and 2, false. And 3, the media is not talking about it. A few outlets are. That the coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll, who said that Shedeur was entitled, his interviews were the worst he had seen, and that he had an entourage, or is backing away from his comments. The damage that they have done, and you heard him say collusion with damages. How long before the NFL ponies up at minimum $100 million before taxes? And I want you to understand something. Don't think lawyers haven't reached out to the Sanders family. Do not think, because that's how this works. We saw what happened with your son, Prime. How you doing? I know that had to be upsetting for you and your whole family. His mom and his brother was antagonized by Emmanuel Acho. I'm not letting it go. I know the whole family just had to be traumatized, Prime. I know that had to be hard. Even the grandbaby. I think I saw a tear too. Don't think it don't happen. Don't think a family, a lawyer has not reached out. Don't think Prime don't have something on go when it's time. Shedeur gonna be in Cleveland and let Cleveland make their next move. And if Andrew Berry is dumb enough to cut him, he will not have a job. Because if the president of the United States had to force y'all to draft him, I don't know who's gonna have to force you to make sure he don't get cut. Because, I mean, he can't get no higher than that. And I know he got his own issues and he probably was self-serving because his friend wanted to buy the Saints. But the point is, it worked. It worked. And when that prank came out and they saw the Ole Miss sweatshirt, you don't think the NFL knew? Oh, shit, we busted. The owner started talking immediately. Let's send him to Cleveland. What did I say today on the video I posted? Pre-draft conversations. The team that Shedeur likely is going to go to already has a black QB. Because the goal this year is to try to prevent what? The upset to the racial hierarchy that the black QBs that start, the QB1s, mostly the first rounders, in the draft, so they don't become the majority. So they manipulated the draft so Shedeur will fall down as far as possible, not slide, pushed. It was not going to be drafted or was going to be Mr. Irrelevant, just like Jerry Rice's son. Because I told y'all, I thought that was going to happen to Shiloh. Shiloh didn't get drafted. Shiloh did not get drafted, and Shiloh had an 80-something grade in his position. Now we have to wait and see if all of our guys, I think we have 15 guys in pro leagues. Unfortunately, it seems like maybe they still working with Chidozie. I wish him well. I felt like he was the one with the social media going first, doing the day in the life of the draft, and he seems to be the last one to get the opportunity. If anybody knows different, let me know. 15 of 16 guys you got into the league. You can't say nothing negative about Coach Prime. And clearly he still has connections. They just not at the top. Because we were like, he don't have friends in the league. He does. He does. And the owner sacrificed him and his son. Jalen Milroe was also snubbed. But Cleveland is definitely guilty in this. It was said weeks ago before the draft. Adam Schefter had posted on Instagram. I was going to go back and get it. I still might if he didn't take it down. Cleveland's draft strategy has been approved. See, Cleveland had to be told what to do. They had to be told what to do every step of the way. And Andrew Berry is sitting up there like he making decisions. But he playing himself because he want to be the boss so bad instead of being honest and like, yeah, you know, this is what we were presented with. Because they hide behind him the same way. So Cleveland hide behind Andrew Berry. The NFL hide behind the Atlanta Falcons. And they got the prank caller. The New York Giants got the prank caller hiding behind Jax Ulbrich, the son of the defensive coordinator of the Falcons. It couldn't be me. It couldn't be me because I'm sorry. I know that man, I think, make $1.6 million, but you're not going to put my son under the bus like that because if something happened to him, how long before the NFL settle with Shedeur Sanders? I might mark today on the calendar and we just come back and check up every now and then. And how long before Andrew Berry get fired? Because it's going to happen. I already know when his contract expires. So, yeah. And if he don't have a renewal right now, since he thought he did so well in the draft by getting Shedeur on the cheap because he's not that good, he old school, and we don't want old school QBs. And Jackson Dart is an old school QB. It was drafted in Shedeur Sanders' place. We shall see. Damn right, HBCU Nation. They made sure 2 HBCU students did not get drafted first round. What? Somebody from an HBCU got drafted before Shedeur at number 141. I was like, are they trying to send him a message that he should have stayed at Jackson State? And I was like, well, maybe so, because he got snubbed out of the Heisman, and people felt like that's why they left. Then he got snubbed out of the draft from a Power 5. Please let this episode go viral or something. Hey, Elaine, we'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. I'm just so happy we hanging out. DD4L. All right, so here we're going to do before we get out of here. We're going together. We're going to watch Alabama State because I want y'all to see Princess right there in the front. And you're going to hear the guy essentially saying, Princess, Princess. And then I'm going to come back, so we're not going to leave. But I'll be on the screen so y'all can see it. All right, so let me take the comments off the screen. DD4L That's Princess in the front. Show her some love. Drop some little crowns in the chat for her. I'm so proud of her. I think she has graduated. This was last season. The most recent season of football. So yeah, but the guy that was yelling, I'm like, they love her. They love her, but she's good. She's really good. Let's see. Here we go. And then we're going to come back and go through the comments because we have time. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Right center in the front, y'all. Right here. Front row. So there you go. Princess, front and center. When I tell y'all they love her, they love her. So I don't know. I'm going to have to send this to Miss Diana because y'all know Miss Diana is also a huge Colorado Buffs and Coach Prime fan. She was actually at the game sideline in year one. Her son, Kobe, y'all know Kobe. He plays football. I think he's class of 2027. He's been visiting schools. I think she might want him to go to CU, but he's too early probably for them to offer because he's 2027. So, the connections here, we know each other. We're familiar with each other, So for the NFL to do something like that to Shedeur and not expect people who love and care about him, including players like Malik Neighbors or Alvin Kamara, who was at CU, it makes you question their it makes you question their thinking, because how is it that y'all could fiercely protect each other even when you wrong, but we can't protect each other when we're right? You see what I'm saying? And that's what's happening here. You know, and they choose who to protect because they for whatever, and that's how you know the Ole Miss sweater guys, somebody sits at the top of the hierarchy because they protected him fiercely, just like the daughter. But the other guy, the one in the gray sweatshirt, somebody asked who was that in the gray sweatshirt? That was the son of the defensive coordinator. Now look at how nervous he was, and look at how calm the Ole Miss sweatshirt guy was. Here's the video. Just, we're gonna look at it again.
What is
Look
the
at the difference
connection
in the
to
composure.
Ole Miss University and the failed plot to embarrass Shedeur Sanders on draft day? As you can see, the caller here, who's looking at a script and waiting for Shedeur to answer the call, is wearing an Ole Miss sweatshirt. Now, fans are asking, is there a connection to Jackson Dart and the New York Giants? As you know, the New York Giants are the only franchise to issue defamatory and negative statements against Shedeur Sanders. So, did the New York Giants intentionally defame Shedeur Sanders to justify drafting a lesser talented QB and Jackson Dart, who went to Ole Miss? Questions that need answers.
Hey, is this Shedeur? This is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints.
All right. So as you could see, Ole Miss was composed, leg not shaking, but the guy that they actually say did it, even though we could see, is over here with the gray sweater. So who is that? Courtney, you asked who was the gray sweater. The gray sweater is Jax, the son of the defensive coordinator, the one they said got the number out of his father's Atlanta Falcons issued iPad with no password. Okay, that's what they're saying, and he wrote it down. I believe all of that is a lie. Look at how nervous he was, and look at how calm Ole Miss sweater guy is. Did Jax have anything to do with it? The phone is in whose hand? Did Jax give him the number? Did he give him the phone? Or maybe Jax was just innocent and nervous because he's just a bystander and they're protecting Ole Miss sweater guy, who's completely calm and feels like he has no reason to be nervous, even though he's being recorded. That takes big ones. Big ones. The difference in the composure tells you that somebody is lying. And the fact that they willing to say gray sweater, Jax did it. Jax don't even go to Ole Miss. Because if he did, they would have said he brought this boy home with him. He a rando. He's been, I guess you could say, identified as a frat boy. So we know supposedly he go to Ole Miss, he in a frat, but we can't get his name. We know the daughter went to Ole Miss. She know Jackson Dart. We know that this is draft day. We know that they are all somewhere together watching the draft. And I ain't talking about the random people. I'm talking about the top brass, the executives who hang out together. Executives don't generally pal around with regular staff unless they just want to be generous, and it's going to be one. So do y'all see what I'm saying? They are protecting Ole Miss and throwing gray sweatshirt under the bus, just like they threw the Falcons under the bus. The NFL has not been fined, and this man has not, this Ole Miss sweater has not been identified. But he a frat boy from Ole Miss. Now, you think if I know he in a fraternity, I don't know his name? But I know gray sweatshirt name. I know Jack's Albrecht name. So, Courtney, that's who that is. That's exactly who that is. That is the gray sweatshirt is the son of the defensive coordinator. He's the one supposedly got the info and wrote it down. All they know about Ole Miss is that he in a frat, but they don't know his name. How you know somebody in a fraternity, but you don't know their name? You know a lot if you know what fraternity he in. If you know he in a fraternity, you know which one. If you know which one, you know his name. So, that's where we are with those lies. Oh, hey, first time commented. Hey, internet cousin, how you doing? Thank you, Courtney. Landon, it says Shiloh is first round or second round. I totally agree. First round or second round. Absolutely. So we ended up with over 100 some odd people. Thank y'all so much. It's like a rally. Yes, Queen T, it is. Thank you. I don't know why people don't want to say it's racist. I mean, it's documented. I could see if it wasn't documented and you are uninformed and you're alleging things. It's documented. For the public to see, the media to report on, all I see is cover up and protection after something that was, I don't even know if egregious is a strong enough word. It was heinous. What they did to Shedeur was a heinous crime. They robbed him of his generational wealth while they were happy to give it to a defensive tackle who generally don't go in the first round. What were they trying to do? There's always an agenda, and it normally has something to do with protecting and preserving racial hierarchy. That's what it typically has something to do. And racism was removed. Yep, the NFL field right at the Super Bowl. Sure did. So they were switching up right then and there. Absolutely. And I think I have figured out what all the excessive sacks are about. If you look at Russell Wilson being sacked 100 times, and you know the NFL was found guilty of collusion, you know how Russ was treated when he was in Denver by his coach. We never saw anybody else treated that way. Jalen Hurts was treated that way by his coach. I've never seen anybody else in Philadelphia treated like that. And we know Jalen Hurts is not problematic. When I look at these excessive sacks and I look at who's being sacked and the 3 QBs being sacked the most at each year are Black. You think it has to be that way? No. Russell Wilson took his team to the playoffs, but he was sacked 100 times, seemingly in Denver, where they asked him to remove like an injury clause, that if he get injured, he get XYZ amount of dollars. But you sack him 100 times and you mad that he won't remove the clause. They were bullying him. And I think it has everything to do with when that collusion case was filed. And what I do know is that Lamar Jackson was a part of it. And so was Kyler Murray, who you don't hear about. Now he's on this list, but he's not at the top. And you don't hear much about him. It makes me feel like Arizona's so far out west that's the only reason we don't hear about him. When he came into the league, he too short. He's too this. He's too that. You know? In fact, they said Dylan Gabriel, they were like, Kyler Murray short, so Dylan Gabriel's okay. But when Dylan Gabriel came in, you would have thought he was the shortest person. But Drew Brees is short for a quarterback. It's not like they 5'7" or 5'8". They're like 5'11", and they want QBs to be 6'2", 6'3". Shedeur is 6'2". Cam Ward, I think, is 6 something, maybe 6'2", 2.5", 6'3". So I was taking a look at this, and now that I know about all of the humiliation Black quarterbacks have been made to suffer, being pushed down in the draft, negating their money, which means they'll never be in front of their peers, passing their test results around, passing Shedeur's phone number around with a waiver wire saying he's not going to be cut, pushing him down to undrafted free agency until guys showed up and he went in the 5th round, which was humiliating. And then you add the prank on top of that. Overlooking his talent, the ability to make money, the ability to win. You didn't care about all of that. You sacrifice winning. You sacrifice your integrity, the brand of the organization. You're out here lying left and right to cover up. Knowing that the league badly discriminates against black QBs. And I already was on to the theory about young black QBs coming into the league and being sacked excessively because they're starting. And that's when I came up with they don't like these young black guys starting. That's where I started this. They trying to protect the racial hierarchy. That's where it started, with noticing how Bryce Young was being sacked and blamed. Justin Fields was being trashed in Chicago until I felt like Mike Tomlin gave him shelter, and clearly they did too. Same thing with Russ. Look at how he was being treated in Denver, and then what? Mike Tomlin gives Russ shelter. In January, it's on the record, Pittsburgh wanted to keep Russ. He was forced out of Pittsburgh even though he took the team to the playoffs because winning is not the priority. What did you hear Stephen A say? Stephen A said it. Well, the draft is not about talent. So winning is not a priority. The draft is not about talent. What the hell are we doing here? Giving out generational wealth to people who are not black. And when we do give it to them, we have them sacked excessively. They're going to feel that when they get old. It shortens their career. So either you push me down and you reduce my career earnings, or you let me get sacked excessively. I'm going to lose one way or the other. So my question is, what is it going to take before these guys say enough is enough and they start talking amongst themselves and put together a black-owned pro league, since they are the talent that makes the money? Because as badly as they treat you and discriminate against you because it's documented, and they say you're inferior and refuse to promote you from within, they keep going outside and get people that don't look anything like you, whether it's coaches or executives or staff, probably, if I had to guess. Because I don't know how many people work there saw that email who's black with Shedeur Sanders being made fun of and kept it to themselves if they truly black. They don't even promote from within. There's no upward mobility from player unless you're the chosen one. And then when you're a chosen one, like Mike Tomlin, you can't even look out for your own QBs. And when you do, they snatch your power away, and you end up with, instead of real power, you have perceived power. You can't even draft Shedeur Sanders, and you're the only one in the organization that like him. After Russ gets forced out of there, after Pittsburgh wanted to keep him, but they force a white QB on you that's 42. And then they force Will Howard on you, and I don't know where he gonna end up, QB2, QB1, or whatever. But the point is, you can't look out for your people, but they can look out for theirs, even when they're wrong. You think Josh Allen think he better than Lamar Jackson? You think he don't know people's votes was changed so he can win an MVP and get the 330, and Lamar Jackson had to fight for years and end up in a collusion case with Russ, who was right here sacked 100 times. So my theory is the excessive sacks on black QBs, including QB1s, it's because, one, they don't want blacks to be QB1s, but they have risen to, what did I say? Shedeur would have been number 17 in the first round, which is why they locked him out of it and pushed him so far down, or they were going to push him so far down that he probably would never get back to QB1. Because that's what they covered, QB1s. Russ sacked 100 times. If I just wanted to, I can figure it out. There's a 60-page report on the collusion. It has a date. I know when Russ was in Denver. I can look at every game that he was sacked. And it can go right back to when Sean Payton was humiliating him on the field. Just like the coach in Philadelphia was humiliating Jalen Hurts, who was pushed down to the second round and has been to the Super Bowl twice. But Will Levis, who was drafted in the second round, is the QB in Tennessee that Tennessee didn't want to part ways with, and they were hemming and hawing about getting Cam Ward. I told y'all they made that decision at the last minute, a few days before draft week. When Cam leaked that he was going to Tennessee is when they decided. They still wanted to meet with Shedeur after CU Pro Day. People like Shedeur shouldn't have canceled no meetings. Y'all don't care if people on snow candy. And you worried about Shedeur not want to go back to the 300th meeting when they are not going to draft him because they were wasting his time. But they were trying to bully him. We get to tell you what to do, boy. People were like, they trying to humble him. No, they're not. They trying to keep him out the QB1 spot so he wouldn't be number 17. But I saw Jalen Milroe working out today. And he not too far down on the depth chart. I don't know why they think he can't be Michael Penix Jr. and end up starting sometime next year. Because they paid Sam Darnold $100 million. That's supposed to keep Jalen Milroe out Shadeur's number 17 spot. I don't care who get it. I don't care if Jalen Milroe tips the scales to the majority or it's Shedeur. But what I do know is the lie that they fabricated and colluded to tell their heinous draft strategy, the plot to humiliate Shedeur Sanders and push him down so far away from QB1 that the majority would be held at half. And it is number 16. Cam is 16 black, 16 white now. Shedeur would have been 17, Milroe 18. So now that they done push Shedeur out the way, and after looking at this sack chart, I'm thinking that might be a good thing. Because Stephen A. already said he's not going to have an O-line. So you know what? Maybe that's God looking out for Shedeur. So go ahead on and stay back there in the back. Go and let everybody else get up there. That's why I said to Shedeur, you don't want nothing and don't have no expectations and don't even worry about the Super Bowl. Don't look at the whole staircase. Let's look at one stair at a time. I believe Shedeur being buried actually off the depth chart because it's only 4, now it's 5. And Barry said he wants to only have 4 QBs. Cool. If you cut him, I hope he go to Jacksonville because that's what's being reported on the low. So I don't care if he get cut from Cleveland. They just exploiting him for jersey sales right now. Then they plan on sending him somewhere else and they're going to exploit him some more. They're going to move him around like they moved Geno Smith around. But Shedeur has star power. So they can exploit it for views at every franchise. As long as he's not interested in getting to the Super Bowl, because clearly the NFL is not about winning, he'll be fine. And to the guys coming out in 2026, now you already saw it's not about talent. It's about that good old network it is and keeping people that are melanated out the QB1 spot. So if you're not a QB, then come on in here and do what you got to do. But if you're a QB, you don't want nothing. Understand they're going to try to play you. Winning is not the priority and neither is talent. So just go wherever they send you. And that's probably God's mercy for you. Because if you look at the way these young QBs and the ones that they tend to have issues with, that they have colluded against or sacked, then you should thank your lucky stars if you're sitting somewhere on the bench collecting $40 million. Red River Classic. That's another one. Okay. Yep. The Bayou Classic. Yep. The Bayou Classic, I think, is 70. The Bayou Classic has the largest attendance at about 74, 76,000. So yes. Anyone remember the XFL? Sounds familiar. But the CFL is still around, right? See, my thing is, there probably are leagues that have come and gone, but I don't know who owned them. What I am suggesting and proposing, because I told you I already DM Coach Prime. I'm like, it's time. If anybody can do it, you can do it. What I am saying is that if the way they are discriminated against, they're not valued except for what? Playing the game and making them money. So why not do that for yourself? You are the draw. If they could do it without you, believe me, they would have done it. Which is why they don't care about winning no more. Because when they cared about winning, you started taking over. So if they would have cared about winning in this draft, Shedeur would be in QB1 in one of those first round teams. They're switching up is what Coach Prime said. Now, I don't know what he meant, but what I meant is they don't care about winning. They don't care about talent. And that could be what he meant too. But the point is he saw it. They're going away from what it's supposed to be about talent. They're not building winning teams, which is why Alvin Kamara was so upset. You have guys on contract for 2 and 3 years. You have rookies from last year with 3 years left who want to win. Guess what the message was? We're not here to win. We're here to preserve the racial hierarchy. This is our league. So to the guys who play in the NFL or used to play in the NFL, start your own. If you can work hard for them and you want to win, why don't you want to win for yourself? You can do this. The venues are owned, not by them, but by state and local and county and municipalities. If 7-on-7 can play at the Rose Bowl, so can you. And you going to sell it out. Because if the Bayou Classic has 76,000 people, the Magic City Classic, the Florida Classic, and whatever else they have, because it's a lot of them, the Heritage Classic, if all of those classics are pushing 50,000 to 70,000, and 7-on-7 can play at the Rose Bowl, so can you. There's no reason after what happened to Shedeur, and then going back and learning about the race norming, that you're inferior to them, and then looking at their hiring practices and how they don't promote upward, and you going from 9 coaches to 6 and now 4, and then Andrew Berry and Mike Tomlin are being told publicly what to do when no other organization is. If anybody should have been told what to do and needed guidance, it's the New York Giants. After fumbling Saquon Barkley, they should have had no type of autonomy to make any type of decisions, because look at where they are now. The GM should have been fired after fumbling Saquon Barkley, and now it's a hot mess because everybody is waiting to find out, why are y'all protecting Ole Miss sweatshirt? What y'all really hiding? Because you already lied to us. So what's really going on? To the point that you want to throw under the bus the defensive coordinator's son, but you want to protect this one over here. What's really going on? What does he know? Who is he? Why won't you identify him? Why will he not be punished? So I believe that the excessive sacks against who you see right here taking the most sacks are about humiliation. It is humiliating to be sacked 100 times, and it's painful. You do end up with PTSD. It is humiliating to be in your rookie year after you win the Heisman, Bryce Young, to come into the league and start as QB1, something they didn't even want you to do, and you sacked 90 some odd times, 91 times. That makes you look like, oh, you can't hang with the big league. It devalues you. But the interesting thing was, people that weren't buying it when it came to Bryce Young. I did several videos about him. Why? What did people say? Can we trade for him? But they wouldn't trade him away. Several teams were like, you want to trade Bryce Young? You want to push Shedeur down to the 5th round? Same thing. They try to devalue these guys by humiliating them. Pre-draft, draft, in the league. That's what the sacks are about. That's why they're at the bottom. They weaponize the sacks. They weaponize the draft. They weaponize the pre-draft process to push your value down. They were doing that even when it wasn't about black QBs. They were doing that. But as you heard Stephen A. say, you still were in the 1st round. Geno Smith, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson dead last 1st round. Might as well have been the 2nd. Jalen Hurts, 53. Geno Smith come back the 2nd round. Shedeur Sanders, 5th round. All the best get devalued and discriminated against because they don't want them taking the QB1 spots. And the reason Shedeur Sanders' heinous plot to humiliate, collude, and discriminate against him and exploit him for views was so extreme is because he was the tipping point at number 17. Well, with Shedeur buried and not even on the depth chart for his likely own protection, so he's not sacked excessively because they don't want him at QB1, Milroe is about to get that heat. Milroe looked good today. Everybody was, oh my God, he's so good. He's really doing good. He's learned a lot. I bet he ain't learned a damn thing. He was always good. They just won't talk about that Alabama, after the season, after they trashed Milroe and made sure he was not number one in the SEC, but Jackson Dart was. So you see, the collusion starts in college. They trashed him in college to keep him out the number one spot. They pushed him down in the draft too at number 94. This man runs a 4.37. Took his team to a SEC title game. He is a dual threat quarterback, the opposite of what they say Shedeur is, that they don't want. They didn't want him either. So when they say we don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders, they're not talking about skill set. They want the ones that's going to hold the line and prevent black QB1s from becoming the majority. Even though they are less talented, they run 4.68s, 4.67s, 4.69s, never went to a title game. They just went to schools like Ole Miss. I lived in Rome, Georgia for 6 years. I wish that I would have went to Atlanta Falcons game. I'm in California. I'm a Californian. Sometimes I do miss the vibe out there. I mean, it's fun. The video I had on the screen was actually one of the schools I thought should have been one of the halftime performances at one of the games for the Atlanta Falcons, because that was an excellent performance. I'm like, everybody that sees that video likes it. So when I was there, I was like, you know what? I think this should be the halftime show for the Falcons. And I had tagged them and everything, but I don't think it ever happened. Turkey Day Classic. Yep. Magic City Classic. Yep. There are, honestly, I think there are about 25, 30 classics. There's a long list. There's a long list. I didn't know there was a classic between Southern and Jackson State. That's a classic. I forgot what it's called. It has a name. It's a lot of classics. It is. Big Tuskegee and Alabama State have a classic, I think, or Alabama A&M. It's a lot of classics. XFL. It would be a great thing. Look at how WNBA players did Unrivaled. Exactly. That's my point. That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. Political Lil. If Unrivaled basketball could do it, and they generated $25 million this year. And I know people are like, you know how much NFL players make? Yes, I know. But when they started out, they didn't make that much money. And the point is, every player got at minimum 6 figures, which means they took care of the compensation issue that the WNBA has. And the first roster got equity in the league. And here's the thing, just because they started don't mean they won't get investors. They're going to get investors, especially if Coach Prime is there. See, that's why I wanted to be Coach Prime. That's why I wanted to be Coach Prime, because everything he touches turns to gold. And instead of the NFL snubbing the recruits from CU, he can draft to his own league. I'm telling you, they can do this. It is time. And it's going to get to a point. They're not going to be able to keep just going back to work and collecting a check. And okay, I'm not worried about the Super Bowl. It's going to get tough. Because one thing about you, I have learned in the short process of studying the NFL, they are relentless. They are relentless when it comes to preserving the hierarchy, to the point where when you saw those green rooms, you saw maybe one person here or there, except for Chicago, and the people with the melanin was off to the sides. They say when to leave an abusive relationship, basically you assess it by what outweighs what. For the NFL, the money outweighs the racism. That's the message that the black players are sending. Yeah, we know, but the money outweighs the racism. At some point, that might not be the case, because they clearly, the way they treated Shedeur, and they don't seem to be retreating anytime soon. It seems like they are willing to fall on that sword when it comes to Ole Miss sweatshirt. You see who they willing to throw under the bus and who they willing to protect. And you see they threw the defensive coordinator son of the bus, but they discarded Shedeur. They sacrificed their relationships with Coach Prime and Shedeur for the sake of what? the hierarchy. And who are they protecting? The one that made the call. Who's wrong? They're not just telling his name. They protecting him from any type of penalties, fine, punishment, etc. They're going to start fighting because the Aldrich is going to have to ask themselves, okay, why are we being put out here like this? And our son is being cast off as the one that made the call when clearly there's a video. He'll put on Tubi or sue something. Hell, put it on Tubi. Trust me. Colorado put out today a video of the Ain't Hard to Find showcase. It's good. It's really good. It's like a documentary. You know, how they got to that process, the process itself, the players, they interviewed everybody, yada, yada, yada. Good. And guess what? I saw a clip, like a photo, a snippet, if you will. Looks like Amazon has something in the works about the draft. Coach Prime and Shedeur were on it. Coach Prime was at the top with like something he had said, captioned, and Shedeur was at the bottom. And Amazon Prime Video put it out there. So if you have access to their account on Instagram, go check it out. I said, hold on, they gonna talk about the draft? This gonna be interesting. Everybody gonna want to watch it because we're gonna want to see, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? There were people that were like, this is our marketing. I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. People were like, it's a ritual. I'm like, if it was a ritual, they would have harassed him and then still gave him what he came for. That's like when people get hazed, if they survive it, they get what they came for. Everybody gets what they came for. But in this case, Shedeur did not get what he came for, what he should have gotten. Not just the money, but QB1. And that's why they worked so hard to make sure it pushed him so far out of reach. So they think. So we have to stay tuned and see what God does next, because that's who's in control. And they still don't believe. So we're going to get out of here, everybody. She said, Zeus. I've never seen Zeus, but I heard y'all talk about it. It don't sound like it's a good thing. Good evening, everybody. I saw a sign at the door. I just have to say, this is about business and ultimately money. No, this is about the racial hierarchy. Trust me. If it was about money, the hustle, it would not have got done like that. Right. You're not gonna do somebody that way and pay them $100 million. When you treat somebody the way they treated Shedeur, and what did I ask y'all? How do you come back from this? How do you move past this to keep going? They didn't expect him to. I think they thought if he go undrafted, he was gonna quit. They didn't want him in the league. That's what y'all not understanding. They didn't want him in the league. What did the man say? What was the verbiage? If you look at the verbiage, it was stated twice. Let's see. Oh, I might have got rid of it. But what did he say? The NFL does not want quarterbacks like Shedeur, right? The NFL does not want quarterbacks like Shedeur. Quarterbacks, plural. They tried to run on with that flimsy, pure pocket passer. Shedeur is a hybrid, in my opinion, because I have seen him make rushing touchdowns multiple times. He uses his legs to score first downs and touchdowns. So they're trying to say his lack of mobility makes him old school and undesirable. But that's who they drafted in Jackson Dart. That's why I say they're not very bright. Because you shouldn't have done that. And maybe they thought because they drafted him, Dart, in the second round. Oh, no. He was the first round, I think. Maybe number 25 or something like that. No, he was a late first rounder. And maybe because I think, right after Pittsburgh passed on Shedeur, Giants traded up to get Dart. Why did they wait until Shedeur got passed? All questions that could be answered, but I have to prioritize, and I don't care about that. But there's a lot going on here. People are in cover-up mode, protection mode, scapegoating. People still. See, normally when you get busted, you retreat from whatever crime it was that you were committing. They are still going on. They are in cover-up mode. And you know this because the media as nosy as the media is, and they refuse to talk about who is wearing that gray sweatshirt, there are stories out there which are lying and saying it's the DC son. And either that man don't know his son being lied on or he okay with it. But if something happens to his son, all this gonna blow up like a powder keg because his mama probably gonna flip out, and I would too. I would not allow my son to be used as the person who tried to humiliate somebody who comes from a family who's a cultural phenomenon, who has 3 million followers, more than the team that he with. He had more followers than the Raiders. He had more followers than Cleveland. They didn't want Shedeur because his light is bright. He has star power. He has 3 ads in rotation at the same time after being Sean dropped down to number 144, which tell you they was already ready to go. And they don't care. They still proceeding forward with them. And I think they said Nike dropped a shoe for him. The Diamond Turf. I think the bling one, which is actually cute. This kid has star power. The NFL likes their black players to be submissive. They can't dim his light because fans are already invested. The only way to dim his light is to make sure he's nowhere near the league. They were not going to draft him, which is what Boomer Esiason told you when he said the owners used that flimsy entitled speech that they got from the New York Giants to say he's entitled to take him off the board, which is why round for round, like Stephen A. Smith, there is no way 32 teams go round for round. That's collusion. Collusion, racial discrimination, defamation, exploitation, and now a cover-up. $100 million after taxes. All right, we're going to get out of here, everybody. Thank y'all for hanging out. This was good. This was good. This was good. This was good. We'll see what's coming up next. We'll see what's coming up next. All right, y'all, we're going to get out of here. This was awesome. Y'all were great. Thank you for the new subs, almost 300 of you, I think, or 700 of you or something like that. Thanks for my new members. Y'all's names, when you go to the page, y'all's names are at the top with your profile pic. If you use your self or if you use your letters, you guys are up there. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. Did Kendrick know something? Turn the TV off. Yeah, he did. And do y'all remember when Kendrick said, well, it was Samuel Jackson. Oh, you want to bring your homeboy with you? What did they say about Shedeur? Oh, he has an entourage. He has a social media team. So the things that they're saying about him, he's entitled, he's rich. If anybody's entitled, it's who we saw make the call. Old Miss Sweatshirt. He wasn't even nervous. We saw, and he was being recorded. That's crazy. And he has an entourage. He's entitled. He uses hashtag be legendary. That type of stuff. Just all fabrication. And they even sacrifice. They sacrifice the brand. Everybody know it's not about talent. Everybody know it's not about winning. It's not about building winning teams. That's why I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? If you're not building winning teams and you're not trying to win, what are you doing? Making money off the backs of majority black players who I don't respect because I believe their brains function at a lower cognitive ability than whites. I'm just making money off of y'all. Just like they exploited Shedeur for views. They weren't going to draft him, but they wanted to get them views, and they got 7 million of them. And Shedeur probably got 7 million new fans, in addition to the 3 he already had. So it's backfiring. Every day it's backfiring more and more and more, and they're going to start infighting. They will not be able to stand together because they are sacrificing each other to protect certain people. Oh, Miss Sweatshirt guy is getting all of the protection. All right. We out. We'll be back tomorrow night. look into Troy Smith from Ohio State. Okay, I will. I will. All right. So somebody gave me something to look into. Papa, I'm going to look into Troy Smith from Ohio State. Okay. So I want to say goodnight, guys. Oh, Dylan Gabriel, Hawaiians, original Hawaiians are our people. That's probably why they have Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders fighting for third, while the two white QBs already have a spot, even though one is 40 and the other one was a backup behind Jalen Hurts. I guess they want to give him his opportunity now. People like Joe Flacco, they said he's nice, so. But he is 40. He is 40. So let's be honest here. That's like Aaron Rodgers. Nobody wanted Aaron Rodgers. He got forced onto Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin should have drafted Shedeur and took whatever happened. See, sometimes you have to do that. You like, you know what? I know I want this job, but they not treat me right. So I'm going to go ahead and put this person on. Sure. What are they going to do? Trade him? That's all you can do? Because that's what Isaac Newsom did for Lamar Jackson. And that's what Mike Tomlin should have done for Shedeur or Andrew Berry. But out of the two of them, in my opinion, Mike Tomlin said there were phone calls. So we had to listen to these phone calls. They were breathing down his neck. The phone calls were made while they were in the green room where his bosses could hear. And he was like, okay. But to me, I would have been like, you know what? I'm sick of this. Let me get Shedeur and I'm out. Let him fire you. What, you scared to be fired from people who don't respect you? How do you want to stay somewhere you're not respected? Is this going to be the only job where you can get this kind of money? All right, then, like, come on. You have to, at some point, stop being self-serving, because all they're going to do is fire you anyway. So if you damned if you do and you damned if you don't, do what's right. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night. And thank you for that, Phil. Thank you for that history. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, y'all arguing over people's history. Good night. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. See y'all tomorrow.